Good morning. My name is David Shenz. I'm the Vice President for Operations at ERP Suites. I'm really excited to be joined by Shawn Mead, who is our Head of Security.
Good morning, David. It's really good to be here.
When we talk about ransomware, how do you kind of protect the data as well? A lot of times some companies will talk backup, they'll talk DR, they'll talk cyber. How do you kind of look through some of those recovery options of the data itself?
So on the recovery options, having a DR procedure is already a good piece, because a DR procedure is going to require having proper backups that have been tested and have been, and I stress this because just because we have a bunch of files on storage that look like they're good backups, if we never test those backups, we don't know if they're really working. So going through that DR process, that's a very good point. But our problem then comes in, how long did the threat actor, how long were the bad guys in there? Mm-hmm. Were they in there for the past month or just the past couple of days? Because if they've been in there for the past month, then they've probably, as you stated, injected something that is there in our backups, such that when that backup is restored, it will just wind up communicating back out. So once ransomware engages, because we're talking about recovery of data, correct? Once ransomware engages, hopefully we catch it at a certain stage, and hopefully we can identify it. You were talking earlier about the complexity. Just like a good JDE implementation or things of that nature, one of the neat things, I say this with respect, not saying that I'm happy with what they do, but that I have to respect the complexity they put into this. You can customize your ransomware. If I'm the attacker, I can customize it, and I can change the names of executables. I can customize it. So the reason I bring that up is when we're trying to recover, we want to find out what the actual programs were that were used. What was it that was the injected substance, as it were? Mm-hmm. If we were talking biologically, what was in that syringe when it got put into us? And if we can find that, then we can also look at our backups and say, oh, look, here's a backup that when we restore it in a nice controlled environment, it does not have anything in it. It looks clean. So that's how you find the one. You've got to do that due diligence at that point. Find a backup that's not necessarily infected. How far back is that? How long is it going to take? Because that's the other piece. So when we talk about recovery, we also want to have that pretty quick. I mean, the faster I can recover my business or recover my data, the faster I'm back in business. Because one of the things that people, again, don't always take into consideration is, well, I've got all these backups. I'm kind of shielded against ransomware. Okay, I just got attacked. That's great. That's okay. I've got all these backups. What do you mean it's going to take 2 weeks for me to get back up and completely running? I can't be down for 2 weeks. You know what revenue I'm going to lose? That's where companies really do need to do kind of a cost versus risk analysis of how fast do I need to come back up? And that will help to drive what technologies am I really going to use to get myself back up. So for example, air gap technologies. Again, they sound great, and they are great as far as shielding. So air gap being that a backup cannot be accessed directly. There are different technologies that allow this. You know, in the past, it would just be you had a separate network and nothing shared. But today we still have some of the same problems. Even with all the technology, our problem comes back to how quickly can we get that back on there. That's great that this data, we know this backup's good because we had this air gap, as it's called. By the way, that's only called that because we're thinking of you can't transmit across it. So the backup's clean. We're fine of that. We're not even worried about that. But how long is it going to take to restore that? And of course, I'm sure that others do as well, or could, but ERP definitely has a solution for part of that.
And before we get to that, Shawn, I think it's also important to realize that an attacker, a ransomware attacker, is trying to get the big payout. And the very first thing that they do when they start to exfiltrate a network and are about to drop ransomware, they try to drop the backups. Why is that? Well, as you and I both know, they want to get that payout, and the defense against the payout is the backups. So if they can get the backups deleted, then they increase their chances of a payout. So that's why it becomes really important, and many cyber insurers are also asking, they want to see kind of how do you have that air gap, as you mentioned, between my backup copy versus my production environment. That way I can ensure that even if my production environment is ransomware, how do I protect that I have a valid backup copy?